time is 6:30. I call to order the Board of Commissioners Agenda Committee meeting for Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. At this time, please, we'll stand for the emergency announcement.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
At this time, please register your attendance.
You have 17 present, 4 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I know Mr. Helton called and said that he had a family issue come up, and I know Mr. Lewis is out of town. At this time, Mr. Kirby, you want to be recognized, sir? At this time, I'll entertain a motion for setting of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Lambert. Second by Commissioner Moon. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote.
You have 17 yeses.
The agenda is approved as published. At this time, we'll move for a public input of items on the agenda. Please come forward. State your name and the commission district that you represent.
I hope I'm not out of practice. This is Carol Ross. I'm from District 1. A teacher enters her classroom and announces, tomorrow there will be a test on the Iliad. It will be discussion. One student looks at her and says, but we've not read it. And the teacher says, well, the book's been in the principal's office for 90 days. The student replies, but you didn't tell us the book was there. The teacher says, well, school policy doesn't mandate that I tell you. What would you think of that teacher? I know Tennessee Code Annotated does not mandate telling anyone that the code books are in the clerk's office. But why would you put them there if you don't tell anyone? By the way, how many of you commissioners have read these codes that you're going to discuss tonight and vote to send to the agenda? How much will these codes cost the county? And how much will they cost the individual citizens? Will citizens be priced out of a home? Is there a grant tied to these codes? And if so, how many strings are tied to those grants? Will people who currently own completed homes be exempt from these codes? Are they grandfathered in? The resolution states the current codes are obsolete. I think that's a bit harsh. They may be six years out of date, but usually when these codes are updated, they only change a few things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Anybody else wish, Ms. King?
I'm Linda King with Citizens for Blount County's Future, District 4. And I'd like to support what Ms. Ross just spoke about. We're very concerned about grants and what they make people do. And what kind of cost is this going to be to the homeowners? And I agree. I know there's many, many times that you people vote on something that you have not studied and have not thoroughly read. And I hope that you will take the time before you quickly vote on this to understand how it's going to affect the homeowners, the constituents that you have in this community. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to make a public statement on items on the agenda? Seeing no other hands, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 4th meeting. Motion made by Commissioner Lambert. Second by Commissioner Carver. Please note that Ms. Birchfield has arrived. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing no discussion, please vote to approve the minutes of February 4th.
You have 18 yeses.
The minutes are approved. At this time, I will stand for the consent calendar. I don't believe we have any special resolutions for special recognition, so that will take us to item E2A, Parks and Recreation Board. Is this just an information only, or do we need to forward this on to the full commission, Mayor?
I believe that'll be something you need to discuss at the full commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll entertain a motion to recommend Michael Lewis to move his recommendation forward to the full commission for the Parks and Rec. Motion made by Mr. Samples, second by Mr. Hasty. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to either forward to the full commission.
You have 18 yeses.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The Mike Lewis's name will be forwarded on to the full commission for the Parks and Recreation Board. Next is item E2B, the Industrial Development Board. There are 4 recommendations. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Moon, seconded by Commissioner Carver to forward all 4 names forward to the full commission. Any discussion? Mr. Fultz, you're recognized, sir.
I know some of these people, but not all of them. Sure would be nice if we could get a little information about their backgrounds before we vote on them. I trust that we can have that for the commission meeting. Are these mayor's appointments? Whose appointments are these?
Mr. Moon,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are the commission appointments. Chuck Alexander is the owner of Hickory Construction. He's past chairman of the Industrial Board. Gary Hensley is a former city manager of the city of Maryville. David Black is a former Industrial Board chairman, a very well-known and very respected attorney in Blount County. Dr. Matthew Murray is a past chairman of the Industrial Board, has a PhD in economics, and is currently serving as director of the Baker Center. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fultz, you're still recognized to speak. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I would just observe that maybe we could use a little new blood, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fultz. Ms. Merle, you're recognized to speak.
Yes, thank you. I was just, this just seems to be like a reoccurring thing. I would just like something in writing about some people, and I don't know why it's so hard to get some background. I know several of these people, and I mean, it's not about the people. It's about the process of having some background information on who we're voting on. Thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, please vote to forward these 4 names forward to the full commission for approval.
have 17 yeses and 1 no.
The 4 names shall be forwarded on to the full commission for consideration. Next is item E2C, the Smoky Mountain Tourism Development Authority. We, as a nominating committee, have to nominate 1 person to send forward to the full commission. At this time, we have been given 3 recommendations and listed in our packet as order of preference. The last time we did this, we opened the floor with and did a voice vote where each of the members of the body chose 1 person, and the person that had the highest vote total was forwarded on to the full commission. Does anybody have any objection to us proceeding that way on this item? Then with unanimous consent, Mr. Clerk, please do a voice and record each person's vote for 1 of the 3 people listed.
Birchfield. Richard Maples. Burkholder.
Rochelle.
Carver.
Richard White.
Farmer. Rochelle. Foltz.
Rochelle.
French.
Rochelle.
Gamble. Rochelle. Green.
Rochelle.
Harrison.
Rochelle.
Hasty.
Rochelle.
Helton.
Rochelle.
Okay. Kirby's Rochelle. Lael.
Rochelle.
Lambert.
Maples.
Melton.
Rochelle.
Moon.
Sorry, I know you out of order, Mr. Crawford.
Did you vote Rochelle? Okay, Mr. Kirby, I didn't get your vote in. What is your vote?
Mr. Kirby.
Kirby. Wade, okay. Merle. Samples. Right. Right.
He's a side.
Richard Maples.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, you have 3 for Maples, 13 for Rochelle, and 2 for, what's the other one?
2 for Way. At this time, Ms. Rochelle received 13 votes, Mr. Maples received 3, and Mr. Way received 2. At this time, I will stand for a motion to forward to the full commission Chad Rochelle to serve on the Smoky Mountain Tourism Development Authority Board. Motion made by Commissioner Lael, second by Commissioner Melton. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward on to the full commission consideration of Chad Rochelle.
You have 18 yeses.
Mr. Rochelle's name shall be forwarded on to the full commission for consideration at this time. That concludes items on the consent calendar. We have nothing underneath unfinished business. That brings us to new business. From my understanding, we have a few items underneath budget transfers. I have 3 items for budget transfers. I'll entertain a motion as to how the body would like to dispose of those 3.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we take all 3 as one?
Mr. Samples, second by Commissioner Lambert. Mr. Fulcher recognized.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I request that we take these individually.
Very well, Mr. Fultz. We will take them individually. I have a motion by Mr. Samples, second by Commissioner Lambert to move item G1A, the 101 General County for $9,100. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward this budget transfer on to the full commission. Mr. Harrison?
You have 18 yeses.
Item G1A is hereby forwarded on to the full commission. Next is item G1B, $6,682.64 for a budget transfer for the General County Fund 101. Motion made by Mr. Moon, second by Mr. Carver. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G1B is hereby forwarded on to the full commission. Next is item G1C, $200,000 involving debt service, category 151. I'll entertain a motion to forward this onto the full commission.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Lambert, second by Mr. Green. Any discussion? Mr. Fultz, you're recognized, sir.
Yeah, I'd like a little more background on this. Where does this $179,000 of lease rentals come from? Is the county in the lease rental business? Where does that money come from?
Mr. Binion, if you can shed some light.
The purpose of this particular transaction is to correct the double accounting that we did on the sale of the asset that the Drug Task Force operates. The way that deal was structured initially is the county commission authorized the county to borrow money from the Public Building Authority in the form of a note for the current facility that they have. The county was paid on a installment basis through rents and lease by the Drug Task Force. And the agreement allows for the Drug Task Force, upon instructions from their board, to accelerate those lease payments, which would facilitate us paying off the note. So once they notified us that the board had authorized the prepayment or the total payment of their lease to the county, that triggered the county's obligation then to proceed to notify the PBA that we were going to pay the note off. And that's what we've done. Problem was, we got advance notice of it. We plugged it in the budget and then turned right around when we came to you and actually sold the building. Well, effectively sold the building. We bought it back from the Public Building Authority. We double counted that, and now we need to get that second transaction off the books. So the effect of this transaction is, on the top line, we're reducing fund balance by that amount, and on the bottom side, we're taking the revenue off because we had it in there twice.
Okay, on the overall transaction, we're getting paid every dime that we lent them?
Absolutely, and we have paid the note off as well.
Okay, and did we get any interest on that, or was that just a...
Yes, it had an interest rate. They covered the county's full cost of the borrowing.
Including the interest?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, please vote to forward this item to the full commission for consideration.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G1C is hereby forwarded on to the full commission. That concludes budget transfers. Next is item G2, which is budget increases and decreases. There are 5 items underneath this category. I will entertain a motion for item G2A, $87,730.59 for a transfer, for a budget increase for General County Fund 101.
Mr. Chairman, I move G2A and B, they both involve North County Sheriff's Office.
Have a motion made by Commissioner Moon to move items G2A and G2B forward to the full commission. Second by Commissioner Carver. Any discussion? Mr. Fultz, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These funds are supposedly from, well, I guess I'm not even clear on that. $20,965 is listed as disaster relief. The overall explanation is reimbursement of costs of damages during presidential disaster declaration. But only $20,000 is listed as disaster relief. Can you enlighten us a little more on this, Mr. Vineyard?
Yes, sir. This item, G2A and G2D, are the same issue. In 2011, there was a declaration of natural disaster because of the hailstorms. And as I understand it from researching this, the county was eligible to apply for grants for those damages. The county submitted those costs to the state agencies that were responsible for administering it, and the county received money. And that money was received March a year ago, so it sits in fund balance. And since then, neither the highway department nor the sheriff's department was aware that the county had already received the money. They're sitting there with a grant that's still unresolved, and we finally made them aware. The money was wired in to us from an agency that wasn't the agency of description in the grant application. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And since then, Kathy Shields has applied for additional funding, and that's what this disaster relief and in line 472300 and the other item related to the highway department is for. That is money that we can receive for the additional costs that we identified. They evidently ended up with more money than they thought they had to disperse to local governments, and as a result, we're able to recoup that. So for the departments to be able to spend anything, we have to come to you, one, to get approval to use the fund balance. In the sheriff's department's case, they're going to replace vehicles instead of trying to repair old vehicles. And then the highway department has costs that they can reimburse themselves for. Theirs was primarily for cleanup across the county, for damages across the roads and things like that.
Okay, one follow-up question then. We had a bunch of vehicles apparently that were damaged by hail. Presumably, since we're self-insured, they were repaired with monies from the insurance fund, our insurance fund. And if that's the case, why isn't this money going back to the insurance fund?
The vehicles were not repaired. See, neither department knew that the county had received the money.
And they didn't go to the insurance.
Neither of them had done anything to apply for.
And they didn't go to the insurance fund when those vehicles went to the body shop?
No, sir.
You're telling me they never went to the body shop?
Based on the information I've got, no.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Viner, as a point of clarification, part of your description or answer also included item G2D for, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. At this time, seeing no other discussion or other lights, please vote to forward items G2 G2A and G2B forward to the full commission.
You have 17 yeses and 1 no.
Item G2A and B are hereby forwarded onto the full commission. I will entertain a motion regarding item G2C, a reduction of $194,890. Motion made by Commissioner Moon. Do I have a second? Second made by Commissioner Kirby. Any discussion? Mr. Fulcher, recognized, sir.
Yeah, I'd like a little explanation of what's going on here. There's a whole bunch of money moving around. I'm not sure why.
I'm sorry. We had budgeted to actually appropriate money in the budget. That we included these items to be spent. Most all of our grants are reimbursable grants, not all of them, but most of them are. And based on what Ms. Shields has told us, we will not be spending any of this money, so we're removing it from the budget because the auditors don't like to see large variances where you're planning on doing something and you never do it. So we're reducing revenue and expenses.
Okay, we're reducing the anticipated emergency revenue and the expenses associated with that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Moon, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vineyard spoke on the item before this and on this item, and he gave the same explanation verbatim yesterday in the budget meeting, and it's good that the full body get clarification on these items. And I may be corrected by Mr. Vineyard, but a number of these are house cleaning items. Is that correct?
I would certainly characterize them that way, not to diminish the amount of money we're talking about, but yes. What we're trying to do is to stay as current as we can and make sure that we resolve any and all issues that would eliminate the need for an audit finding.
Thank you, Mr. Vineyard. Seeing no other lights, please vote to forward item G2C forward to the full commission.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G2C is hereby forwarded onto the full commission. Next is item G2D, $8,599.48 regarding the Highway Fund 131. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Mr. Hasty. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Commissioner Lambert. At this time, any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote regarding item G2D to forward it to the full commission.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G2D is hereby forwarded onto the full commission. Next is item G2E, $3,286 regarding fund balance, or not fund balance, but regarding Fund 141, the schools. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Commissioner French, second by Commissioner Kirby. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote regarding item G2E to move it forward to the full commission.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G2E is hereby forwarded to the full commission. That concludes budget increases and decreases. Next is item G3. We have one commission action needed regarding item G3A, purchase resolution for sale of surplus property.
Mr. Chairman, I move that to the consent calendar of the full commission.
Motion made by Commissioner Moon to move item G3A, resolution number 14-03-010 to the consent calendar. Second made by Commissioner Carver. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward item G3A forward to the consent calendar.
You 18 yeses.
Item G3A is hereby forwarded on to the full commission. There are 2 items that are in here as information only. I'll entertain a motion to move both of these items forward to the full commission packet. Motion made by Commissioner Lambert. Do I have a second? Second made by Commissioner Gamble. These 2 items that are part of the dealing with the budget calendar update and the hospital debt obligations will be forwarded onto the full commission for information only to be included into the commission packet. Seeing no discussion, please vote.
And 18 yeses.
These 2 items will be put in the commission packet for information only. That concludes other budget and purchasing items. Next is item G4, resolution adopting and incorporating by reference the provisions of the 2012 edition of the building codes. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Mr. Kirby to forward this on to the full commission. Do I have a second? Who was that? Second by Commissioner Farmer. At this time, Mr. Kirby, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Justin Becker, Coach, I thought he came in the bill. Yes. Yeah, can I have him come forward? Enlighten us on what's going on here.
Blount County adopted building codes back in 2006. With adoption or the creation of the Building Codes and Safety Department, we adopted at that time the current building codes, which was the 2006 edition published by the state. The state requirement is that we adopt or stay within adoption of 7 years of the current code. Currently, right now, the 2012 edition is on the records. The state updates those codes every 3 years. Starting January of next year, the 2015 edition of the codes will be out. Therefore, with us having to stay within 7 years of the current edition of the codes, we will be deficient if we keep with the 2006 edition. Therefore, we need to adopt a more recent version of those codes, which we're proposing the 2012 edition. As in also in your memo, Alcoa and Maryville have adopted the same codes as the 2012 edition.
Mr. Fulcher recognized.
I'm not clear on what you said about staying within 7 years. Who says we got to stay within 7 years?
The state.
Who in this, is it a law? Who in the state?
Tennessee Code of Annotated Law, 68-120-101, Section B4.
And what does it say, since you got it in front of you?
The local government's building construction safety code publications are not current within 7 years of the date of the latest edition thereof, unless otherwise approved by the state fire marshal in writing, provided, however, that nothing herein shall require local government to adopt a standard more stringent than the standards enforced by the state fire marshal pursuant to this section, or to adopt a mandatory sprinkler requirement for 1-family and 2-family dwellings.
Okay. Now, like many other people, I was quite surprised by this announcement we got a few days ago. This code, which is a major document, which takes a long time to wade through. The announcement says it was in the clerk's office, and I agree with the speaker earlier. Who knew it was in the clerk's office? Certainly we got no notification that it was in the clerk's office. I suggest that prior to the commission meeting, you scan this and put it online on the county website so people can at least see it who are interested. Can you do that?
Yes, I was following the TCA rules, which requires a copy to be placed in the county clerk's office for review for 90 days prior to submission to the county commission, which we did. Also following the guidelines of the county attorney, and also like I said, we before that was put on review at the county clerk's office, it was published in the Daily Times.
That's all very nice, but and you've conformed to the law, and that's good. But we have an obligation to keep the citizens informed of what we're doing, particularly on a major change like this, which is liable to affect a lot of people. So let's get it up on the website at the very earliest moment here, so that people can look at it, a cross-section of our citizens can look at it and let us know what they think. Can you do that?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Well, actually, if I can update that, the actual codes, there's about 8 books of codes. So to actually be able to post that would probably be almost impossible, but we can at least somehow get a link or direction to where those codes can be found.
Commissioner Moon, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One, they are copyrighted, most likely. 2, the changes in a link would be very helpful. If my memory serves me correctly, did this not come to the agenda committee in December?
It was presented, but then removed from the agenda once we realized that the codes had to go on public review for 90 days.
That was my recollection. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hasty, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Yes, Justin. Here it's got 7 items. Are these pretty much the changes that are in it? It says some clothes dryer, exhaust duct, protection from impact, drip edge, deck attachment, foundation drain tiles, waterproofing, carbon monoxide detectors, and handrails.
Those are the 7 significant changes. However, you'd literally have to go through page by page to identify every change. Like I said, there are 8 books that reference what we are considering adoption here. Some of those being 2 and 3 inches thick. So there's a lot of material.
Commissioner Samples, you're recognized to speak, sir.
I tried to go through this stuff as well, and I had a hard time getting time to go through all of it. Justin, is there a requirement that this be taken care of this month? What is our deadline to have this done? And if we put this off, would it give you more time to give us a better synopsis of what these changes are without having to go through 8 books?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, in regard to the state requirement, January, I guess, would be considered our deadline, because at that point in time they would have adopted the 2015 edition of the codes. However, there is another driving force behind this, which is a requirement by the ISO, which is the Insurance Services Organization. They perform an audit of our program on the average every 5 years, which is also done at Alcoa Maryville. During their audit, I believe it was back in November of 2012, they realized that we did not have the most current codes adopted, which at that time was the 2012. Their requirement also is to have codes adopted within the 7-year period. Their deadline for us is actually it expired in October. We got an extension to go until May of this year due to the 90-day review period of the codes. If we don't meet their standards, that could greatly impact insurance ratings. So there's another driving force, which is to keep insurance ratings down on these new structures.
So the deadline was this past January or next January?
Well, for the state, TCA will be January of 2015. However, with the ISO ratings, that deadline is May of this year.
And if we don't meet that deadline, we could cause our residents' insurance rates to go up.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Fultz, you're recognized, sir.
At some point, you've got to wade through all this stuff, right? In
Our
order to
codes-
know what new things to enforce.
Our building codes department does, yes.
So, presumably you've already done that. Can you give us a more comprehensive list of what changes have occurred?
I can't at this point in time right now. No, I cannot.
I'm sorry, I didn't get.
I cannot at this point in time right now, no.
Why?
That's up to our building codes department. They have been in the process of reviewing those codes, but I can't confirm that they're 100% through reviewing the codes and have them memorized to the point where they can reiterate any changes before we deny it.
It seems like we're back to the Nancy Pelosi way of doing business here. We're to adopt these new codes, and later on somebody will tell us what's in them.
Marty Yates, our building codes official, was not able to be here tonight to answer any questions. However, Jeff Chapman, one of our inspectors, is here. He might be able to shed a little more light onto some of those changes.
Well, what I'm looking for is, a couple of pages. It looks like you've started it, but in order to enforce this stuff, you guys got to know what the major changes are. And I'd sure like to know, before I have to vote on this, what the major changes are. This is important stuff. It affects a lot of people. And I think the development department owes us a list of what the changes are here.
Okay.
Before we vote. Thank you.
Commissioner Kirby, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is the same as Mr. Fultz, but in your opinion, how many changes do you think are made from when we adopted it? How many updates?
Since the 2006 version?
Right.
I've guessed.
Hundreds?
No.
Don't have no idea. Okay, thanks.
Mr. French, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In looking over some of these codes, the building codes, are we talking about new residential construction or existing residential construction? I mean, some of these changes affect residential construction. Some affect commercial construction.
Correct.
These things aren't designed to go into an existing residence, and people aren't going to lose their homes, and they're not going to have to pay exorbitant prices to bring those homes up to these codes. Am I correct?
No, sir. It's for new construction, additions, remodeling.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Samples, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Justin, if we put this on the April agenda, would it give you time to give us a better breakdown of the changes?
Do the best we can, yes. I mean, I can't promise we'll get them all on there. Like I said, there's eight codes books to go through.
I make a motion we table this to the April meeting.
Second. We have a motion to table this till the April meeting. We have a second. Do we have it? We have a motion to postpone to the April meeting, to the April agenda meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Samples? Yes. And we have a second on that. Correct, Mr. Fultz?
Yes. In the meantime, I would hope they'd be able to generate for us some kind of more complete synopsis of what these changes are.
Mr. Harrison, do you like to talk to the motion to lay on the table?
Yes, I want to make sure that this is not going to affect, if we delay this till then, this is not going to affect our insurance that till April. When did you say, Justin? January?
No, I believe it was May. Let me double check that.
Commissioner Fultz and I are having a private discussion. We don't believe that we can take any discussion right now as to a motion to lay on the table or a motion to postpone.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. If we lay this on the table and adjourn tonight, this item is gone because our session and meeting are concurrent. Just take.
The motion is to postpone to a date certain to the April meeting.
Correct.
So it would show up as unfinished business underneath our April agenda.
It would just go, if it's postponed to the April agenda meeting, it will be an item
On the April agenda. Just making sure. But a motion to postpone is not a debatable action, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
Commit to a committee is the one right below it. Motion to postpone is the next.
Mr. Carver, you can continue discussion on this motion to postpone.
Will that give you enough time to put together a list of changes that are, do you believe? The major changes?
A synopsis.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I think yes.
And one other question. Building permits that are already in place, will that affect those, this new codes? Or would they have to update those codes?
No, it'll be permits that are newly applied for permits.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion to postpone to a date certain? Seeing no discussion to postpone to a date certain or no more discussion, please vote. A vote yes will postpone this item to the April agenda meeting. A vote no will result in the continuation of debate on the main motion. Please vote. If 16 yeses and 2 noes. The item shall be postponed to the April agenda meeting. It will be the first item underneath the agenda at that meeting. At this time, that takes care of item G4. Next is item G5, the resolution appointing Robert Smiley as a judicial commissioner for Blount County and relieving Tanner Brock, Robert Brown, Charlie Coker, and Jason Holt. I'll entertain a motion to forward this to the full commission. Motion made by Commissioner Lambert, second by Mr. Farmer. Any discussion? Mr. Fultz, you're recognized, sir.
I think, at least when I read this, it said that they were going to appoint 2 judicial commissioners in the resolution, but they only name 1. Yes. Whereas General Sessions Judge has found it necessary to appoint pursuant to Tennessee Code, et cetera, part-time judicial commissioners, 2 in number, but they only name 1. Is the resolution inaccurate, or are we missing a name? What's going on here?
I'm going to ask to speak to the people that sponsored this if they have any clarity on this issue. Mr. French, Mr. Farmer. In the body of the resolution, it says that no, further on down it says that there's necessary to appoint 2 part-time judicial commissioners, 2 in number, and we only have 1. So the question is, are we missing somebody that was left off of the resolution, or should there only be 1 and we just need to amend the resolution? Mr. French, do you second that as the original sponsor of this resolution?
Yes, my understanding was just one was going to replace it, yes.
And who were the original makers of that motion? Ms. Lambert and Mr. Farmer. I know Mr. Farmer accepts that amendment. Ms. Lambert, do you accept that amendment to 1? Because you were the maker of the motion. I figured you'd say that. We now then have a resolution to appoint just 1, and the body of the whereas will be modified to say part-time judicial commissioner 1 in number. That is in the 3rd whereas. Therefore, I will let Mr. Farmer continue his discussion. Mr. Moon, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It may be the case, and I'm not saying it is, that currently there is another part-time person they're appointing, the second part-time person. I don't know that, but between now and the full commission, if this goes forward, if that is the case, that there is another part-time person currently employed, that we could do a technical amendment at the full commission meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Commissioner. Mr. Fultz, you're recognized to speak, sir.
This resolution speaks to new hires. It doesn't speak to existing employees. So, and number 2, we just amended it. So it is what it is now. Thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, please vote to forward the resolution for the appointment of 1 part-time judicial commissioner and the relieving of 4 commissioners from their duties forward to the full commission.
We have 16 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstain.
This item is hereby forwarded to the full commission. What should it be, Mr. Carver? Please let the record reflect that Mr. Carver meant to vote yes on that motion. The motion carries. And item G5 is hereby forwarded to the full commission. Next is item G6, resolution to amend the bylaws of the Veteran Affairs Committee of Blount County. Motion made by Commissioner Lael, second by Commissioner Carver. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward to the full commission.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G6 is hereby forwarded to the full commission. That concludes our new business. At this time, I'll take public input of items not on the agenda. Ms. King, all right, Ms. Ross, go ahead. You're halfway up. Come on over. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to stand here if that's okay.
Commissioners, when Mr. Teague was reading that quote from Tennessee Code Annotated, the only words I heard was fire code, state fire marshal. I heard nothing relating to ICC or anything like that. So my question is, does this Tennessee Code Annotated apply only to the fire code? Thank you.
I'm Linda King. I'd like you to remember in the past, every time this Development Services Department has come forward, whether it's about codes, whether it's been about quality buffers, anything that's going to make major changes in this community, they have waited till the very last minute to come forward and try to jam something down our throat before we understood what it was all about. Look in the archives if you think I'm not telling the truth. It's about time that they tell us what's happening up front. They've told us in the past that they knew a year in advance that things were going to change and that we were going to have to change the way things are written up in our community. But they wait until the very last minute and say, we have a deadline, we have to do it now. So I want to thank all of you tonight for at least putting it off a month and not jamming it through our throats tonight, so that at least we can find out what major changes are coming down the pike. And if it's things that we really do have to adopt. You know, right away they say, oh, Maryville adopted it and Alcoa adopted it. Well, sometimes Blount County should have a mind of their own. Secondly, I just want to make a comment, and I know it won't mean anything to you people, but I was listening to this stuff on the money we got for this final disaster relief. And I understand that was money given to us by the state because of storms. And there's like $8,600 that's going to be sent with the highway department for disposing of debris and, you know, because of storms. And that's quite understandable. You know, I agree with that. That's, you know, that's great. I'm glad they were able to reimburse us for some of that. Then there's almost $88,000 with the sheriff's department. And if you drive around this community, you'll see cars that were damaged by hail all over. Do you ever see these bodies of cars? They have little dings on them from all the hail. I know people in my own family that had hail damage. I don't understand why we're spending $88,000 to buy new vehicles that have some dings on their body. I just think this is absolutely insane, as though we don't have better things to spend money on. Thank you.
Recognize to speak, ma'am.
Okay, I'm asking for just help here, and after the meeting's over with, if y'all could just share some light. We got an email from someone in Townsend, and it just hit me. She was saying that Happy Valley and Top of the World, they're having, I'm sure every one of us got this email. Do we have anything we can do to help or to get dumpsters in those areas? And I don't even know where to start, so I'm asking for guidance here to see what we can do to keep our community beautiful up there, because as she said in the email, it's a lot of work and a lot of people aren't coming to the landfill, and it's just going in everyone's property. So any help to help figure out how to work on this situation would be great.
Ms. Lambert, you're recognized to speak, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a question for Mr. Vineyard. It's my understanding that the sheriff's cars that are the ones that are so old, they are not making parts for them anymore. And that's one of the reasons for requesting new vehicles, and it's not for hail dents.
That's correct, based on what I've been told.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fulcher, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Wow, that really stretches credibility that you can't buy parts for Ford Crown Vics. Go on the internet. You can get any part for a Ford Crown Vic anytime. That's nonsense.
Then why don't you do it?
Commissioner Moon, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On a brighter note, at 6:45 Thursday night, we can assemble anytime we wish. That's the desire of the body. But at 6:45 p.m., Lieutenant Colonel Clausen, Colonel Ira Campbell, Air Force chaplain, will be part of a presentation to a Vietnam veteran. Just giving you a heads up. If you can make the 6:45 time frame, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You'll be in here, yes. Commissioner Wright, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Concerning the trash problem at Top of the World, I have been working with Ellen Rudolph on that, and we've referred that, first of all, to the recycling committee, number one. Number two, what we discussed was the people at Top of the World, they have a homeowners association. So what we discussed was for them to place the proper dumpsters up there and let those people pay. They have an annual premium or a maintenance fee they pay up there, so they could have several dumpsters and make that part of their annual maintenance fee, and that's what we discussed. And I don't know where she's at on it, but I did call and get her some prices on some dumpsters for that area. Since the county don't have anything in place to do something.
Mr. French, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the top of the world problem, at one time there were some federal funding, federal grants available to handle this type of problem. I'm going back probably 15 to 20 years because I looked into it at one time, and the problem's going to be if we provide it for one area of the county, we're going to have to look at all areas of the county, and because I've been approached several times. The explanation I was given why we do not have convenience centers is that we have 22 to 25 private contractors that pick up trash and pick up garbage at residences and businesses, and they contract with these people. And if we do this, we're going to put those people out of business. And now this was the answer I received 20 years ago. So I think if we're going to look at one area of the county, we're going to have to look at all areas of the county. If we're going to do anything about it. Now, what Mr. Wright has proposed, I think, would be the best solution to that problem.
At this time, I have three announcements, as Mr. Moon had already alluded to, that at 6:45 p.m. in this room, a Purple Heart presentation will be made. The second announcement is the commission meeting will be on March 20th at 7 p.m. in this room. Announcement 3, the Education Committee will be meeting on March 13th at noon at Fairview Elementary School. And the Blount County, and the final announcement is the Blount County Corrections Partnership meeting scheduled for Tuesday night, March 25th, is canceled. With that, I will stand for a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.